What is going on, traders? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kyle Williams with Clover Trading, and in today's video we're going to talk about some of the hottest runners that we've been seeing this particular week, specifically in the middle of August. And the reason why I'm bringing this up because it's kind of created this little bit of mania. We haven't seen very hot markets like we saw in 2020 and 2021, but we've always seen little spurts, right? And that's usually how a healthy market goes. 2020 and 2021 were kind of insane years, and so everyone's like, when are we going to get back to that kind of market? It's like, well, you know, I would assume we might never get back to that kind of market, but we will see spurts. And I think this kind of week we have seen those kind of spurts. So before I go any further, if you haven't seen the video that Huddy just did on talking on his checklist to buying multi-day breakouts, go back and watch that because he breaks it down beautifully. And not only that, he talks about TTOO, which literally the breakout happened perfectly as how he talked about it, why he thinks it's going to be a good breakout. And now I'm here kind of reviewing the aftermath of it all and having seen how great of a breakout it ended up actually being. So without further ado, go watch that video by Huddy, come back, and we're going to talk about some of the hot runners since that video. TTOO here, again, Huddy was talking about it when it was consolidating, and eventually we get this kind of move kind of from low as like 30 cents on this day when it kind of gapped down, but then actually closed green. One more green day, and what do you know, a huge gap up pretty much right at the breakout level, and then we were off to the races and a huge run. How did I personally play it on the long side? I remember how kind of powerful this first breakout was. I mean, it was a very similar manner. So in this second breakout, again, like I said, 30 cents on this low a day, one green day, two green days, third green day, which again is a little bit overextended. I'm not a fan of buying a ticker on its third green day going into the breakout level like this, especially when it's already up 50%, you know, from 30 cents at the low, then all the way to 45 breakout level. But we've done it before. We were just trading, the first breakout level was around 11 to 12 cents, has one green day, has two green days. This day here is actually like our little red doji candle, but nonetheless, it did technically close green. The stock was up that day. It just closed below its opening price, but it was green of the day. And then the third green day, right into this 18.5 or 18.35 breakout level. Again, from 12 to 18, a 50% move into that breakout level. Usually that's extension that I don't like to see as a long trader. I'd like to see the breakout kind of happen much closer to like a consolidation level. But again, 50% already up, but still broke out and actually went up to 45, another 150% beyond the first breakout level. So when we were kind of gapping up to the high here, right at the breakout level on this day, I thought to myself, yeah, I don't like that it's gone pretty much straight up from 30 cents, but it is not out of the ordinary in terms of percentage that it hasn't happened before. And so if we go into the intraday, I really didn't want to buy it right away. I wanted it to kind of prove itself. And so this is what happened today. But if we go to yesterday, again, remember the breakout level is 45 cents. So if we go back here, you know, we actually already crossed it in pre-market. We already were as high as like 48, 47. And here we are just trading right over that 45 level. Right out the market open, all this volume comes in, you know, it stuffs at 45.2, 45.1, 45.01. So yes, technically just broke over 45, but as you can see, it actually stuffed quite well. It never really had a much bigger move over that. It pulled back, bottomed at about 41, 42-ish, and then you give yourselves another 30 minutes and we are right back testing that 45 level. Once we saw that happen, or once I saw that happen, I knew for me that this was now enough consolidation. We had set a nice risk level at 40 cents down below. To be exact, it was 41.17. So let's round it down, call it 41. I knew that was about 4 cents away. Yes, that's about a 10% risk, which again is a little bit of a wider risk. But again, the last breakout went from 18 cents all the way up to 45. I think this breakout's gonna do maybe not as well, but 4 cents or 10% is a reasonable risk when we know a stock like this can break out and go 50, 100, 150%, right? So I did get long at 45, and I pretty much, that was that. I got long at 45, risked 41, and just let this thing work pretty much all day long. Midday, I didn't even touch it here, barely watched it, frankly. I just trusted my plan and let it run and let the breakout work. And so it just kept going, and we keep consolidating, and before you know it, midday, we're hitting, you know, 59 cents. Already a great breakout in its own self, but again, part of me wanted to, no matter what, hold some overnight because I wanted to see this play very similar to the first breakout, which in this case it actually kind of did, but not as well, right? It didn't go 150%. It went more about, what was it? We'll look at the daily chart in a second. As it keeps going here, I eventually do add, and I forget where I did it. I believe it was right in this area. Only reason being is because I actually tried to add lower here, but never got the entry I wanted. Finally, I got this dip, and I did about 50% more of my size, because at this point now I moved my average up to 49 cents, and I could risk this new low of like 52 cents. So either way, me stopping out was still going to be a gain for me. And then what do you know, once the market closes into after hours, we get a huge squeeze. I do sell a portion of my position at like 67 and 69, and then I take the rest overnight. And again, the reason why I wanted to do that was because the previous breakout had a huge gap up and then actually a spike. I was thinking, yes, we'd see a gap up, especially after seeing that move in after hours, right? We almost confirmed to have a gap up in that sense, unless there's no negative news to come out. But I also thought we'd see even a higher gap into pre-market and maybe even a morning spike. Now, unfortunately, that didn't actually happen. We did gap up, like I said, but again, it wasn't anymore more than where it was in after hours. If you go look at after hours action when I sold at 67 and 69, again, it gapped up to pretty much right there. In fact, it actually dipped and then came back, and now it's in that range. So once the market opened, I thought to myself, okay, this isn't as strong of a gap as I liked. Last run went 150%. I guess today, if the high is 70 cents, that's called from 45 to 70. It's not even 100%. It is more than 50%, I believe. If we do that rough math there, I mean, what is that, 25 cents on 45? Yeah, it's a little bit over 50%. So still a great gain in terms of risk reward. Again, risking 10% to make 50. But once we kind of stopped out at 70 cents here, I kind of thought to myself, okay, this is a bit weaker than I would have liked. I ended up selling it all right below this crack here. Once it cracked and start making lower lows below this 64 level, I sold the rest of it, locked in about like 13 grand on the long side, which is really, really sick. Again, never realizing that big of risk, was never risking more than that 10% in the beginning. And then after I added, I was actually in a profit the entire time. Really beautiful breakout level. Some of the easiest breakouts I've ever personally seen. Again, the easiest breakouts happen when you buy the breakout level and you never even see that price again. And that's pretty much what happened here. So really, really cool to see that. In terms of what happened today though, is it ended up having a really good red day. And again, that's kind of why I sold, because in the back of my head, I knew and wanted this to go higher as someone who was long this, but I knew I couldn't overstay my welcome because there coulda, shoulda, would have been downside if I had held, right? At the end of the day, the only reason why I'm profitable on the long side is because I lock in profits, right? I'm not just gonna hold and hope and think that things could always go higher. So I have to listen to price action. Once it broke 64, I actually started getting short bias. And actually, in this trade, I don't have my trades up. Let's show you my trades actually from today on TTOO. So once I sold my long, again, I had locked in money, felt really good about it on the long side, but now I knew that this short might leave an opportunity. So pretty much as I sold my long, I equally got short, right in the same area, right into this little bounce and pop back, risking that high. Now again, if I had not been long, I would have been a little bit more aggressive. I probably would have started in short at this like 67, 68 bounce, risking the high. So getting my full position at 64, 65-ish, risking 70, again, that's another, call it 10, 8% risk. I don't really love this entry. I wish it was a little bit higher. I wish I had a tighter risk level. But again, I also knew that really no matter where I shorted, I was pretty confident that it would work and fade off slowly, or not fade off, but at least panic at some point. So I was willing to take that risk. Again, wasn't risking much more than a few grand like I normally do. And what do you know, it ends up panicking red. I cover a little bit there, cover the rest in this panic. And then I actually missed this huge wash, massive wash, much more lower than expected. This is a move we have seen before. We actually have seen a move just like this from TRKA later and earlier in the year. If we go back, they did a reverse split, so ignore this. But this move right here was a beautiful day where that sold off lower, much lower than anyone ever expected. And so on TTOO, when we saw that intraday move here, everyone in the chat room, Clover chat room, and me, myself, Jack Kellogg, Huddy, we were all like, oh my gosh, this is like TRKA. Usually how TRKA played out was very similar here. We had a great bounce. I did buy some at 42 cents and then flipped it at 50 cents. Very small size, wasn't really feeling that aggressive on it, even though it was a beautiful panic dip buy. And then you see me reshorting here. So I reshorted into this bounce at the around 55 level, was willing to add if it kept going up to red green, but it just never did. Had a double top and then pulled back to 45. So I covered there and then did another bounce all the way to red green. I reshorted again. So again, same thinking as I would have kept adding if this bounce went higher, because this bounce did go higher, but just an hour later, I'm like, okay, let's give it another shot. Shorted again, kind of using this red green level under and over as risk. It popped over for just a minute right here and then failed. And so then it pulled back and then I ended up covering the rest in the low 50s, high 40s. And again, locked in, I think just under 15 grand on this trade. So really a good 20 grand, 26 or 27 grand kind of day for me. Really, really happy with it. Because TTO started running, because this lower priced sub-dollar stock started running, it brought in a lot of momentum and a lot of other tickers, being NVOS. NVOS is another one, had some volume coming in yesterday, then a huge gap up. We're getting closed at, what is this? Closed at 11.6, and then open all the way up at what, 22? Quite insane. The actual open, right, is like up in here. Yeah, 23, 24-ish almost. Yeah, no, more like 22. But again, practically an almost 100% gap up. You could have sold into the morning spike for 100% move had you just bought the close. I know some people are buying in like the 10s and 11s here. I unfortunately completely missed this. I unfortunately questioned how well of a gap up it could have. Clearly, I was just dead wrong. But again, beautiful to see, beautiful to see that momentum coming in. Unfortunately, the gap up was kind of too much for it to handle. It really couldn't hold its gains. For a little bit, did come back right here in midday, but eventually ended up actually fading off, and in after hours, we're looking a little bit weak here. But along with NVOS, we also saw EBET, another one. This one's really, really strong. Again, similar thinking, got a little bit of action the day prior. Again, you got to think about it, as TTOO was going from 45 to 50 to 55 to 60, all these lower price stocks started getting more and more attention as the day came about. Again, EBIT being one of them, like NVOS. And so I didn't have much, right? If you look at the intraday, it didn't look that popular, it didn't look that exciting, but it was enough early signs to see that something might have been going on, right? You see this nice casual uptrending, a little bit of volume volume, not too much yet. Huddy was actually long this. I think he sold pretty early, unfortunately. I remember talking about it. He was pretty pissed at himself. But what do you know? Again, it followed the same idea. It actually gapped up over this breakout level of 5 cents, 5.3 exactly. Like this little high right here was 5.5 cents, not 5, but 5.3. And it actually gapped up well above that price, pulled and ended up holding 6 cents. And then what do you know? Ended up going as high as 11. Again, the volatility here, guys, is just a day trader's dream. Yes, they're small price stocks, but that's kind of why we love them so much, because they're able to pull 50, 100, 150% move in a matter of a day or two, and no one blinks an eye. Like, this is casual things. Now, granted, the volume and the way they happened, or how easy they happened, that's where the really good part comes in, which is why I'm kind of making this video to show you how good they can be. But again, because these low price stocks are so maybe small in market cap or just a smaller companies, these kind of moves aren't out of the ordinary. And even now, beyond the one that's kind of lagging behind is TIVC. TIVC, again, hasn't had its huge run yet, but this is almost like the first day. This one did not take part in the day prior to all these kind of ramping up and getting warm and then getting super hot into today. This one started getting hot into today, and I'm actually still long this thing, pretty much break even right here, seeing if this hot momentum and this hot theme of these lower priced penny stocks can keep going. So again, we'll see about tomorrow how it looks. But again, hopefully you're learning this, guys. Hopefully you're learning that when volume and volatility is there, especially in low price stocks, specifically under $1, a lot of them are getting hot. You can call them their own little sector if you want. But again, this is just a little update on what's going on, what's hot. And again, if you're out there studying these kind of technical patterns, if you're a breakout buyer, this market is really good for small accounts, right? A lot of people in the Clover chat made some good money. Two traders in particular that I think of, Mitch and Don Juan, had their best trading days and trades in the past couple of days from these moves. Again, huge moves, huge ways to grow a small account if you're a small trader. And this is the kind of volatility I learned from, and I'm still trading to this day. I just really, obviously you can tell I'm passionate about it, rambling about it. I just love this stuff. But anyways, hope you guys learned something. See you guys in the next video. Hopefully you guys catch some money and make some money from those moves. If you're not, keep studying and catch the next one that comes around in the future months or days. Anyways, thanks so much. See you guys.